I'm the president of the Upshur County Board of Education. I'd like to welcome you to our Superintendent Candidate Forum. I want to send a thank you to Mr. Harvey and the YLA students for assisting us with this. To me, it's such a great thing that we're able to use our student leaders to take part in this. I just want to say that this is not a board meeting. If you notice, board members are not seated together. There are many rules about why we can't do those types of things. So we are going to be spread out in here. We will not answer any questions tonight. We're here to listen the same as you are here to listen. There will be a meeting tomorrow, but most of that will take place in executive session. It's just a conversation to follow up on the interviews that we've done with the candidates, what we hear tonight, and to discuss what we have gathered as we've spoken to the references that the candidates provided. So it is our hope that on the board agenda for Tuesday that we will make an announcement. It is our hope. That's all I'll say. I'm not going to confirm that that's going to happen, but that's what we hope to be able to do. Also, Mr. Harvey is only the host and the advisor of these students. He didn't take part in the questions. He didn't take part in any of the interviews that we did. He's just a third party who is helping us facilitate this. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Harvey and the YLA students.
I'm going to say very little other than that these are some incredible students. I'm going to let them take away the show, and Hank Phillips is going to introduce everybody and get us started. So, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. And welcome to the Upshur County Superintendent's Candidate Public Forum. Again, my name is Hank Phillips, and I will be your moderator for tonight's event. And then on behalf of my co-moderators, Cindy Mullins, Cody Trainer, and Lila Wright, we express our gratitude for you joining us here this evening. And we look forward tonight to a productive discussion. So, alongside our advisor, Mr. Harvey, we are here tonight representing Buckhannon-Upshur High School's chapter of Youth Leadership Association. So, again, thank you so much for coming out and hearing these public voices. So, thank you.
Prior to tonight's forum, candidates were briefed on the rules and format for tonight's event. So that the audience is aware, here are some of the key rules. Candidates will begin the event with an opening statement to be no longer than 3 minutes. The order in which candidates deliver the opening statement was chosen at random before the event. Questions were derived from public submission. Questions submitted by the public were then reviewed by elected members of the Upshur County Board of Education and narrowed down so as to fit into the allotted time for tonight's event.
We will continually rotate which candidate gets to answer each question first. Each candidate will have a chance to answer each question. Candidates will have 3 minutes to answer each question, after which point a bell will ring and the moderator will move on to the next candidate. After all questions have been asked, each candidate will have the opportunity to deliver a 3-minute closing statement. We thank you again for your willingness to join us tonight. Now, let's meet the candidates for Superintendent of Upshur County Schools.
Introducing our candidates, first we have Mr. Jeremy Kyle. Next we have Mrs. Christina Bailey. And finally we have Mr. Russ Paul. Without further ado, we will now move on to the opening statements, beginning with Mr. Kyle.
So I think everybody can hear me? All right. What as good as that mic? This is pretty close. Guys, again, good evening and welcome, and thank everyone here that came out and kind of braved this uncharacteristically cold weather that we've had here at the beginning of March. And a little bit of feedback. I'll try to adjust that as we go with all mics, and you might get a little bit of that. But again, I am Jeremy Kyle, currently am working as Director of Special Education, Director of Transportation, and Facilities for Webster County Schools. I am 6 credit hours away from having my doctorate through Marshall University. Hopefully it'll be the next consecutive semesters that we have, depending on job responsibilities and potential change in those responsibilities. So we'll look at that stuff moving forward. So that in a nutshell is kind of where we've been and where I'm here. We have a graduation from Level State College, master's through Fairmont, administrative information through Salem University, and currently enrolled in Marshall. So we're here tonight to discuss and look and see what we can do to offer the skills that we have from the 3 individuals that we have at this table. And you guys get a fantastic opportunity to help decide what we do for this county moving forward. So I thank you guys for your input, giving up your time, and for the students of Upshur County Schools, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. And like Jeremy said, I'm trying to pull the microphone back a little bit. My name is Christina Bailey, and I am a candidate tonight for Superintendent of Upshur County Schools. I'm very excited to be here and wanted to welcome everybody out tonight. I'm currently in Braxton County. I'm a special education, early childhood, and professional support personnel director. I've been in that role for 7 years. I thoroughly enjoy my work there. I work with preschool programs. I also am the director for the Head Start, and we've done lots of great things in our county. And I am student-centered and like to keep that as my focus. Prior to that, I worked for the Department of Education as a professional learning coordinator, and in that role, I went around the state and looked at best practices in schools. Not looking for things people were doing wrong, but looking for those things that educators were doing right, and then presented those as a best practices notebook. I also served as a principal. I've been a principal at the middle school level and the elementary level as well. I am a graduate of West Virginia Wesleyan College, and also I received my master's at North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina, where I also lived for several years after college. I'm excited to be here tonight and looking forward to answering some of the communities and staff, students, and families' questions. So thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here. I feel privileged to sit here with my colleagues. We have an opportunity to help children every day, and honestly, that's why we do what we do. My name is Russ Call. I have kind of been around the horn. I'm from Randolph County originally, went to Shepherd College to play football and to get an education. And from there, my wife decided she wanted to be a chiropractor, and I, at that time, said, what is that and how do you make money doing it? And we moved all the way to Georgia, and that was around the beginning of the time when No Child Left Behind came out, so training was immense. We spent 5 years down there, then moved back to be closer to grandparents, and I spent 5 years in the Northern Virginia area, and I just wanted to come home. And so I was fortunate to move in back to Randolph County, and I was able to work at Taggart Valley High School. I then, at the persuasion of Mr. Terry George, constantly hounded me, became a principal. I've worked at elementary, middle school, and high school levels, and pretty proud of the things we've done at all those levels. When I left Elkins High School, we had won an attendance award. We had moved up in the rankings academically to about 14th in the state, and everywhere I've been, we've been able to be successful in that kind of format, trying to make sure that our kids have the best opportunities possible once they leave us. So with that being said, I am the Director of Transportation, Maintenance, and Safe Schools Coordinator for Barber County Schools. I have a wonderful superintendent there that we think a lot alike, and he has encouraged me to reach out in this manner as well. again, in an effort to help. I think that, you know, we can all learn, but we can all receive help too. And I think I would love to have the opportunity to help any district, but especially this one. You know, I play football on that field, so Upshur County has a little special place in my heart. So I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to your questions.
Okay, thank you so much. So our first question tonight is oftentimes it seems that conversations about school safety are reactive rather than proactive. What would you plan to do to ensure not only that there is a plan in place for safety in Upshur County schools, but also that each school is held accountable for safety protocols? Start with you, Ms. Proctor. Oh, excuse me, Ms. Bailey.
Okay, now more than ever, safety is kind of at the forefront of everything that we see on the news. And then it seems like every time a school safety issue occurs, we're heightened to a different level. So I think the first thing that we have to make sure is that we have protocols in place, that every school has them in place, and that we're following a consistent protocol for the entire county, and that we have a plan in place. We have a reunification process in place as well, and that we're being transparent and communicating that with our community and our families so that everyone knows what the process is. The next step, I think, is that we have to make sure that we are practicing what it is that we do and how we do that in case there is an issue that might arise on one of the campuses. We have to be proactive, as often as you said we are often reactive, but if we put plans in place prior to, then hopefully we can be able to save a student's life, a staff's life, and prevent these things. I also think that we have to work hard to ensure that we are taking care of student needs within the building. Oftentimes, a lot of the safety issues that arise come from within our buildings. And if we are taking care of our students, our staff, then we can kind of stop those events from getting to that next level. Thank you.
Just a reminder. We can continue on with the same question. Oftentimes it seems that conversations about school safety are reactive rather than proactive. What would you plan to do to ensure not only that there's a plan in place for safety in Upshur County schools, but also that each school is held accountable for safety protocol?
Thank you. Well, Mr. Sisk, I know, is actively working in Upshur County schools on these programs. I think that every time something happens, I think in the question it was stated very well, we always react. Even if there's a plan in place, we react. We're in the middle of that right now. We have a new plan that is coming out from the State Department called reunification training, and part of that's a very difficult topic. That is something that you have to go through if an event happens. That takes a lot of coordination, and most people are not going to be thinking right if something were to happen. We have to get to the point of reality and understand these things happen, and the best laid plan, there will be a reactive point to every single one. However, there are lots of steps that we can take to try and limit any type of activity that occurs. So with that being said, I think we have to stay up to date on those state requirements. You know, the color code is going to change. If you want to look it up, it's called the I Love You Guys Foundation. But the Department of Homeland Security has teamed with them, and those color code changes are not mandatory yet, but they are on the way. I'm not sure where Upshur County is in that process. We're planning on implementing them in the fall in Barber County. At the same time, structural integrity of entryways, checking in of guests into buildings, making sure doors are closed. There has to be protocols in every single school to make sure that the threat is minimized in any possible fashion. And at the same time, we're human. That there are going to be times where that doesn't happen. So we have to check. I don't think that it's just one person's job. I feel like the entire board office, safety is, it's got to have a director or a coordinator, but every person in the county has to play a role in the safety of our schools and the protection of our children. And I need the kids to feel safe if they're going to learn at the level we want them to learn. And that level is a level where I want them to leave us and be more successful than we are. That's the whole goal. So with that being said, I think the steps have to be taken to implement procedures, as you had said, and make sure that there are fundamental steps that are in place every step of the way, so there are as few questions as possible if something were to happen. There always will be, but hopefully we've addressed as many as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. And on the same question, one last time. Oftentimes it seems that conversations about school safety are reactive rather than proactive. What would you plan to do to ensure not only that there is a plan in place for safety in Upshur County schools, but also that each school is held accountable to safety protocols?
Okay, yeah, we're still working. Just want to make sure, guys, as we move forward in every policy procedure that we have as a county system, first and foremost, we include the public in as many of those type of plans as we possibly can. Starting through the facilities part of my position, one of the first things we looked at was school safety, and we evaluated the effectiveness of the current school plans that we currently had in place, and how we're going to modify those, working with the school administrators moving forward. We had several community hearings where we included a lot of the first responders and community members, a lot of those volunteers, and our general public. We looked at those off-site places, we looked at evacuation protocol, and making sure we had those plans in place, the agreements in place to use those facilities to house our kids at times of emergencies. So all of that, all-encompassing piece we pulled together. One of the main things through that discovery phase was that some of our first responders didn't quite have access to our buildings. So we worked as part of that school safety initiative to ensure that some of the people that could be those first people responding to those buildings didn't have to find one or two individuals to get them in the building, that they had access on their own. So that is one of the major priorities that we noted. We also did bi-monthly, weekly walkthroughs with those individuals that are familiar with our buildings and those plans in case of emergency. It's not something that we have to find, but they'll have readily available to them. And as was mentioned, we work with each school individually to come up with those plans, and we work to make sure that those people in charge of those plans are following those with fidelity. We make sure that it's not a guessing game when it comes to student safety, what actions we should take. We look at the very step. It's not a reactive kind of thing, as they know exactly what to do, when to do, how to do, and to keep all of our students safe. And it comes down to an individual decision sometimes of what's best in those situations. So making sure that that protocol is in place and it is followed as best as it possibly can. And again, to do that effectively with each school, it takes a lot of community assistance to be able to help us respond to that, to make things move as quickly and efficiently as we can. And when it comes down to those type of situations, every second counts. So it's just being familiar with that with staff to make sure that it's more commonplace, common practice, and that way everything is thought through, it's controlled, that stress and anxiety doesn't hit school staff, and we don't think things through. So a lot of those things, as my role, my position is ensuring that those things are followed, that everyone has a plan, and we stick to that. So that's pretty much revisiting everything that everyone else has said this evening. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will be, what would your plan be to upgrade facilities in Upshur County schools so that we are safe and comparable to neighboring school systems?
Great question. I'll be honest with you, the first thing you have to do is develop a very good relationship with your community. Some of the projects I know that are needed in all counties are going to take a lot more money than the county has available. So things like bonds, I know that you used to have a levy. There are a lot of steps along the way to try and help the community understand the needs that are being said, I don't think just running a bond or just running a levy is the way to go. I think we have to have steering committees, information committees. We have to involve parents. We have to let everybody participate. People that don't want the levy need to be a part of it. People that support the levy need to be a part of it. And I think, this year my wife ran for the Board of Education in Randolph County. And so many board members think they can do so much and they can do so many things. And they arrive with agendas. And there, as was said earlier, there are so many rules that you have to follow. A lot of times it's very limiting. So building those relationships and educating the entire community as to what the needs of the children and the school system are, then everybody can share in an idea to try and develop it. Then from that stage point, you move forward. I feel it's the superintendent's job to build very good relationships with the SBA. That's who's going to pay for the other half. We've done that quite a bit in Barber County. I didn't know I was such close friends with Joyce Van Gilder and other members, Michael Whitlow of the SBA, but we're hoping to get a very large grant in Barber County with those relationships. And it's a matter of, again, helping the SBA understand then what we as a community have planned and what each school needs, then presenting that to get support. And then from there it goes on and you develop a plan of action. Usually that involves an architect, and they help us actually run a bond or a levy to help raise the half of the funds, most likely with the amount here. If we're going to build a new middle school, for example, that's a lot of money. So for the SBA to commit to something like that, we're also in the middle of a huge amount of prices on the rise in construction costs. So how do you even develop a budget for that? Because it's going to change in a month. So those are all of the things that are part of that problem, and you have to be able to educate the entire group. And I think if you do it the right way and you're clear about where your money's at and what you're trying to do, and the public has a chance and the kids have a chance to develop that plan, you have a much better chance of success. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, to repeat the question, what would your plan be to upgrade the facilities in Upshur County schools so that we are safe and comparable to neighboring school systems?
And it comes back a little bit to the previous question looking at school safety. One of the main things to consider is the entryway to school systems. A lot of that consideration has to go into future projects to make sure we have that multi-point entry to every school, incorporating that into what we see here for this county moving forward. The comprehensive facility plan always has to be prioritized when we're putting information out, looking at that information with the school building authority, meeting with stakeholders such as people in this room to identify the biggest need that we have in our county school systems. And like you referenced, it really comes down to, who can present the information better to the State Department. When you have, tens of millions of dollars in projects that schools want to bid on, and what they have available is a lot less than that. So it's really how we can present our need as being one of the biggest priorities that they have. And again, it does take a relationship with the community to identify those board members, school staff, all those collectively to making sure that our facilities plan is up to date and our focus is where it needs to be before we apply for that money. So that's step one. Step two, we apply for those, and if we don't get those, how can we revamp those projects moving forward to see what we can do? And again, out with our levy, is of course another big contentious point that we have. It's easier now more than ever to get information from us collectively, the school board, out to the general public, and being as transparent as we can moving forward to show where this money is going to go, what it's going to be used for, and how to benefit the students of the county school system. That's one of the biggest keys as we go through and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, what would your plan be to upgrade facilities in Upshur County schools so that we are safe and comparable to neighboring school systems?
Well, that's a great question, because I feel like if you don't have a learning environment that is safe and up to date, then learning can't take place. So that's a big step in ensuring that students and staff are safe in an environment. I was at a school in Nicholas County when I was first principal, and we were told that our school was probably going to be shut down because it was not safe. The air quality was bad, and there was no plan in place for that. And so we had to immediately get a plan to ensure that the students were safe and that they weren't getting sick, staff weren't getting sick, and so forth. Also, in that same county, we went through the flood that happened in 2016, and so both of my children graduated in pods that were donated from other counties, and we still don't have schools as a result of that. So I think it impacts the learning, it impacts the community if you don't have those resources available. One of the first steps that we looked at was that we were able to utilize the levy, and I do think that is important in making sure that we get that information out to the community and let them know that that really is to benefit the students and all the students and everyone in Upshur County. The second step with that is, like both said, that we need to work with the school building authority. Really, you have to look at resources that you're able to match. If you can put forth the work, and we can put forth the work as a county to be able to provide some type of match, we have a better opportunity of getting the school building authority to pitch in and help fund our projects. The next step with that is ensuring that you are utilizing those community resources that can provide some type of funding. Get them on board. If there are businesses that could benefit from helping the community get safe schools built, then get them on board, because they're more likely to donate and match those funds that you need. As far as ensuring that we get everything in order, it's making sure that we are involving all stakeholders, businesses, community members, students, staff, parents, and everybody buying into that process of what we need to do to get safe facilities built. And that includes not just building the new middle school, but ensuring that our HVAC systems are up to date. That is a big issue that we are dealing with right now in our county, is that we don't have the funding to update the HVAC units, which in turn creates higher student and staff absences because the air quality might not be good. So I think putting all those things into place would be very beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you. How will you facilitate communication to and from citizens to the administration and the Board of Education members?
Okay, again, when you're looking at communication in general, it's one of those things where we are here. When you have those type of topics that need to go out for public input, this is the type of things that we do. We invite people, of course, through board meetings to make sure that we have the accurate information out to everyone. Every publication that we send out from county level and or schools, we utilize call systems, any type of social media. All of those are very effective, very quick ways to get accurate information out to our public. And open up forums like this to have those type of communications back and forth are key. Social media is seconds at getting information out to general public and getting answers back. As superintendent and or school board of education representatives, we receive phone calls on the daily of information that we have to relay to public. And being here in front of you guys here today shows that all three candidates are willing to do that moving forward. Just a few people in this audience here this evening that I'm familiar with and receive, but I'll take time to talk to anybody that are very concerned, not only in the Upshur County Schools, but education in general. That's our job, that's what we signed on to do. Once we get to that point in education, we are representative of all collectively county boards of education, not just Upshur County. So anything that I can do to help that cause, that's kind of toward getting in a position where I could help more individuals. I worked with several counties, schools, and every school that I visited always had the same thing. They always had a list of complaints a mile long of why someone isn't doing something or what we need to do. And we get to a certain point where we ask ourselves, well, we are capable, we are able. And so that's when I started my administrative route, and currently working on the doctorate so I can continue to move up that ladder and touch more than just a single county school system. We look throughout, this one and neighbors to see how we can often, and which referenced before, look and see what other counties are doing and what's working well for them and how we can incorporate that type of stuff in with us. And so that's why we're here. So we look for the information from you guys, we take that back and we make that plan moving forward. Thank you.
How will you facilitate communication to and from citizens to the administration and BOE members?
Thank you. So I feel like 90% of the time when any type of problem arises, communication seems to always be the underlying factor that causes that issue or that concern. And I feel like we rely a lot on social media, and we've begun to utilize that, and it's helped us get things out. We're able to live stream meetings, we're able to get information out. But I feel like we also have to make sure that we're reaching those people that may not have social media, may not have that internet service and that technology, and still sending postcards and letters and things like that just to reach everybody. It takes two minutes, less than 2 minutes sometimes, just to return a phone call, to return an email, and when you're doing those things, I feel like that just opens up communication better for the whole entire county, and making sure that we are just taking that extra time to communicate to everybody, and remembering that not everybody communicates in that same manner. Like I said, 90% of the problems arise, and when you get to the root of it, it's because there was a lack of communication. And if you would just take that time to communicate 2 simple things, you can get rid of a lot of the issues that might arise and take care of things. Also, it lets people know that you care, and if we let people know that we care about them, then oftentimes we get better results in anything that we do in the county. So I think looking at all of those ways and utilizing forums and inviting people, engaging people from all areas to come participate, different activities, showcasing our talents, celebrating our talents, and making sure that we're getting that communication out there in many different ways for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. How will you facilitate communication to and from citizens to the administration and Board of Education members?
Again, great question, and I think this is the foundation of solving issues and communicating with the community. I think, obviously, as a superintendent, our job is to organize almost every aspect of our daily lives without micromanaging. We depend heart and soul on our directors. We goof around sometimes where we call them the cabinet, like the president's cabinet. Now, from there, I also think there's a kitchen cabinet. Those people that have retired and meet at McDonald's every morning and discuss all the things we should do differently. And what's wrong with going down and buying breakfast one morning and sharing the information that you can share with them. Obviously, as Jeremy said, we have all kinds of tools. The school messenger system, as we said, social media, obviously live streaming our meetings, being just totally clear as we can be with plans, money, every aspect of what we're trying to do. But I think the superintendent has to be an integral part of the community. We have to be at IOF meetings. We have to be at Ruritan Club meetings. We have to talk to the Lions Club and brag about our kids and what they're doing. I want more people than just this group to know you guys are here. We have to get out and show the public this is why we're here. This is why we need funding. This is why we need you to come to a ball game. Not because we need your ticket. We need your support. The kids need to see you there. So those are all things that can happen naturally. But I think Jeremy made a great statement in the fact that we are representatives of the whole state, not just our board, other boards as well. And my goal is to be the example for the whole state. And it's not just me, all the directors, all the teachers, and I've worked in places where the teacher, not teachers, but other people, I've had principals, teachers, and directors. Well, I'm a parent first. Not necessarily when you're in this job. These kids have to come first. And if they don't, we have a problem. No communication will happen. We have to get past that and make sure we try every avenue to try and communicate with everybody so that everyone knows where we're going. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next question is, it seems as if there are disconnects and kids left behind in between each level of schooling. How would you ensure that our elementary, middle, and high school educations build on one another to lead to successful outcomes? Starting with Mrs. Bailey.
That's a great question. Like I said before, student achievement has to be at the forefront of everything that we do and all of our decisions that we make. Oftentimes we do see a gap in when the children leave elementary to middle and then to high school. And when we look at that, I think the first thing that we need to do is we need to work with our administrators, and I think it begins with developing quality leadership teams and meeting together, and as well as looking at professional learning communities within the schools, as well as within the entire county, and getting all of the administrators together to talk about what are the needs and how do we look at that. We have to start with a clear vision and mission for our entire county, and then we build off of that. And the first step I feel like we need to do is look at what the standards are. What are we teaching? How are we teaching it? And then if we look at each step, beginning with pre-K, and then building on that foundation as we move up to graduation and beyond for all students, looking at what each level pertains to and what those standards are. At the elementary level, as the kids go from 5th grade to 6th grade, holding those transition meetings and having the 5th grade teachers and the 6th grade teachers meet together in a professional learning community to look at what the students know, what they don't know, and what it is that we want them to know and learn, as well as going from 8th grade to 9th grade. When we look at our proficiency in the entire state of West Virginia, it is very low. And so when our county is trying to get above that state level, our students still are not proficient. If we're scoring 40% as a state and our county scores 45%, yes, we're above the state and we're green, but our students are not proficient. More of our students are not learning than are. I think we also need to look at student engagement on all levels, and if we practice that in all the schools and build upon that, it will continue to grow throughout each grade level, as well as looking at different things within the schools, different vocabulary, focusing on that. If we utilize the same vocabulary from pre-K up, then the students begin to learn that, and they're utilizing that, as well as administrators performing walkthroughs, going through the buildings and looking at that. My role as a superintendent would be to be an instructional leader for my administrators and ensure that I'm doing everything possible to help them be able to lead their school instructionally and take away some of those managerial things that sometimes keep them from being an instructional leader. So I think that if we put all those things in place, we can get a straight line and get our kids on the path of success. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, how would you ensure that our elementary, middle, and high school educations build on one another to lead to successful outcomes?
Thank you. So I'm a firm believer in a tiered model. We have to grow one off of another at each level. At the same time, the foundational base is in elementary school. By 3rd grade, if students aren't reaching the potential or benchmark set by science that demonstrates whether they'll most likely be successful or not later on, we have a problem. If we had the right answer for that, we'd be millionaires. That's a constant struggle everywhere we've been. But I take a different approach to that. I can tell you that we have teachers that are tired. Discipline is a constant problem. We have absenteeism. If kids aren't in school, they cannot learn. And then we need teachers to love their jobs. I'm not saying they don't. What I'm saying is, kind of like what you said a moment ago, there are so many things that go on besides loving your job and being a teacher and loving your kids, that you can't do it. And we're losing teachers right and left. So to answer the question specifically, I think, I want to challenge and make it possible. Teachers wake up and can't wait to get to school. Kids want to come to school because they're having fun. I have a niece that we love dearly, and she's struggling in math a little bit. And we tried to apply some math strategies. She loves to dance. So we were trying to use that as a model. Quote unquote, I didn't realize math was so easy if I liked it. And that's where we're at. I think the state continues to try and find that answer. House Bill 3530 just came out, and back in March. But now the aides in schools, we're going to try and add aides. If the kids don't want to learn because they're unhappy, and the teacher doesn't want to be in the room because the kids are driving them crazy, and the principal can't get the teachers to be happy because they're always doing discipline and dealing with parents, there's not any learning going on. So I think the attack here, it's very simple. Coordination, kindness, and just being upfront and working together to organize a plan, level to level to level. We have to have tiered planning times. The middle school needs to be able to meet with the 5th grade teachers and see where they left off. The high school needs to meet with the 8th or 9th grade teachers and be able to plan next steps. Inside the schools, they need to have time to do that and develop a strategy, not just for the 4th grade, for the individual child, because what your child can do, another child may struggle with. And another child may be acting up because they're bored. So we have to be able to challenge all levels. But my main thing, honestly, I think we got to make school fun again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and one more time. How would you ensure that our elementary, middle, and high school educations build on one another to lead to successful outcomes?
It's a very difficult question to answer in 3 minutes. Do we have any educators out here in our audience today? You guys ever had a conversation with your coworker, same little teacher, about what kids haven't learned before they got to you? I'm sure we all have. Basically, when you look at this process of education in general, we look at the foundation and where it begins. And a lot of those kids are before they become school age. We look at those type of upbringing, what type of things that they've had available to them at home. Do they have special needs that Birth of 3 program could assist parents with? Those type of things of intervening early with students before they get to us and or right as they walk through our doors is one of the best things we can do for our general public and success for those students in their entire education. The other important key to that is we look at these certifications that we have for people we are putting in front of our students. Now more than ever, we're struggling to find bodies, certified teachers to put in front of our students to teach them. And some of those happen to be in those core curricular areas, ELA and math. And that's a struggle for our school system. We don't have a quick turnaround answer for that. So we'll work with, state stakeholders, hopefully moving forward to help better that situation for us and for our students. And in the meantime, what do we do with the problems that are in front of us? And by all means, it becomes with a collective group from each school. We look at leadership teams, as we mentioned, identify through grade level meetings with those teachers to identify what weak areas we have in 3rd grade and the 4th grade and moving on, and how we can better turn that and plan for the future. Is it a curriculum issue? Is curriculum we currently have through textbook adoption, is that something that we need to adjust and take a harder look at in the years moving forward as we adopt new text to put in front of our students? Look at staff development and providing opportunities for teachers collaborate not only in schools, but countywide schools as well. In Western County, we've also taken groups of teachers from other grade levels who have struggled to other counties to see how those type of things work and what some of the things that we can do potentially better. So all of those opportunities from the ground up is where we need to look. And it begins with getting more qualified people in front of our kids. And That's just a complicated thing to do. But in the absence of that, we rely collectively on the high points, those experienced teachers that we have in the building to help bring them up. All the new people bringing in the building are all assigned mentors to help kind of prod along the way. But looking at education in general, that's my time. So, good luck to us all.
Thank you. Mr. Collett, we'll start with you for the next question. What are your plans to address the increasing emotional and mental health concerns of our students in the Upshur County school system?
I think that this is an ongoing problem across the country. Holds a special place in my heart, and I think that we have to invest time and money into allowing resources within the building. But even if we get those resources in the building, we have to build trust. Students that have these problems oftentimes don't want to talk about them. And the reason they don't want to talk is they don't trust anybody. They don't even trust their parents. And that's hard for parents to hear. But it's the truth. And so sometimes we have to open up pathways and opportunities and be able to find out how each of those students operate, how they think, what they're comfortable with. And then it might be, again, this goes back to my original question. Is teaching an art or a science? I think it's an art. I was a teacher for a long time, and I'll be honest with you, as an old football coach, I was an even better teacher. We did very well. But I had kids, I still have kids that are in their 40s that call me from Georgia. Not because I taught them history, because I sat with them on a couch at 2 in the morning and helped them through a problem. Those are the types of things we have to get back to. And I think that, I'll be right up front, I think COVID has caused us to be distracted. And everybody's compartmentalized. And they'll be okay. No, they won't. They have to be able to have an upfront person that they feel confident in, and it might be a cook. I can tell you right now, I have a custodian in Weber County, and he's got 6 or 7 kids that every day, they just want to be near Kevin. And so we work those things out because they need it. Not because it's helping them learn math or English, but because they're with Kevin, they're doing better in math and English. So I think every single student is going to have some type of key, indicator, topic, conversation, and they're going to get close to one person. It might be a friend. I think that, some of the trainings that we need to do are not just with our staff. It needs to be with parents. It needs to be with students. If you have a friend that has a problem, who needs to know? Why do they need to know? What do we need to talk about? And so I think we need an organized plan through every resource we can get. The health community, the judicial system. I'm working with a case right now that we had to get things mandated by the judicial system. And the child needs the help, and they're doing better. So whatever resource we have, I think we have to tap that to try and open the door so every student feels comfortable and has an opportunity to get help. And we have to be trained on how to recognize it, who to report it to, what to do with it when we find it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, we'll go to you. What are your plans to address the increasing emotional and mental health concerns of our students in the Upshur County school system?
Well, and I agree with you said. It's a widespread epidemic that's kind of come upon us the last couple of years, more so than we've seen. And moving forward, we need to make sure we have enough assistance readily available for our students in those time of needs. If they're at home, who they call, where can they go? If they have issues during the day, which door do they open, which door do they knock on? What note do they leave to have somebody come and see them? And a lot of that comes right down to the communication, relationships that we build with those students every day. Like you said, it's not always necessarily a teacher. It could be even a custodian. It could be the cook. A lot of times it is a PE teacher, those type of things, where we're out of that structured routine a little bit, where kids feel a little bit more comfortable. So first and foremost, building those relationships. And the next step to that is make sure we have enough bodies there representing the student population to make sure we have access for them. If we can't answer that locally in a school, what next step outside of that do we make referrals to for our student health? And a lot of those this year, in the last couple of years in Webster County, we've hired a number of social workers to help with that due to the rise and increase of concern that we've had for student well-being, and making sure that those individuals are well known throughout every school that we have. And they go along with our counselors to help do those type of lessons in classrooms on a daily basis. And so that way we open up that possibility for students and make them feel comfortable making those connections inside our walls. And, you know, it goes back to school safety, and you look at academics, all that stuff means nothing if the student's not comfortable coming to us. So if they're worried about those type of things and what someone's going to say next, you know, whether they're not safe walking down the hallway, forget A's and B's and what they learned in math yesterday. So our job is make sure that they're here, they're fed, they're comfortable, and then after all those type of things are in place, academics will follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bailey, we'll go to you. What are your plans to address the increasing emotional and mental health concerns of our students in the Upshur County school system?
I think the first thing that we have to look at is we have to build relationships. If you don't have that relationship, then nothing else will transpire. You will not get any results with anything. I like to live by accept all, love all. We're living in different times now. We're seeing a lot of different issues, different trauma that our children are going through that we didn't see before. And I know that we talk a lot about, you know, COVID brought a lot of these things on, but these things were happening way before COVID. And I think that we have students who are coming to us who are being moved from home to home. They're coming in, they haven't been in bed all night. Sometimes they're removed in the middle of the night. And I think if we, as a collaborative team in Upshur County, start to build those relationships from the top down, we can help those students before a level of crisis arises. We lead the nation in a lot of things. A lot of that is the opioid crisis, which is still around. We also lead in kinship care and grandfamilies, raising grandchildren. So a few of the things that I have done and would like to continue are building those engagements for families, providing them with resources that they may not have or they may not know about, having them come in, let them know, signs and things that they needed to look for, and things of that nature. I'm a huge basketball fan, so one of the things that I always did was we made sure that every student, every day in my school, when I was a principal, had one shining moment. At the beginning of the year, we played One Shining Moment, and if you're not familiar, it's the culmination of the NCAA tournament, and we made sure every single kid in that building had one shining moment every day. And if that was the custodian adopting that child, if that was a parent coming in and adopting that child, we made sure every single kid felt loved. I think you also, now we have to look beyond that. We have to look beyond some of the scopes of just building those relationships, because we have some true mental health needs and crises. And I think partnering with different resources, such as community care, mental health, getting those counselors in to help students, and being able to provide families with the resources where they can go to seek additional help. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. The next question will be, how do you plan to approach the big issues facing our county, such as certified teacher shortages, academic performance issues, and student engagement? We'll start with Mr. Cloud.
So you read a question one more time for me?
How do you plan to approach the big issues facing our county, such as certified teacher shortages, academic performance issues, and student engagement?
A lot of those things, we go back through looking to put the best individuals in front of our students as we can. Are students engaged? Are the people there in front of those students performing and giving the best performance they can and delivering that instruction, or are they sitting back on an iPad expecting students to discover things for themselves? And a lot of that goes down to building level administrators monitoring things and getting that information out to everyone, making sure things are checked and followed through. Our role job is being the final seat, the final say in all schools. Every school that we have here in this county is a representative of the individual in that seat. So we need to make sure that our administrators are out doing what we expect them to do, what our community expects them to do, and ensuring that academic is the focus. And what doesn't get monitored really doesn't get done from time to time. Whether it's the door that's propped open outside interest of school safety, is it a facility check, a facility walkthrough that we can do to help just something simple as cleanliness, something to take a little bit more pride in their building. So all that collectively comes to this seat and expectations handed down, which will address every one of those areas.
Thank you. To repeat, how do you plan to approach the big issues facing our county, such as certified teacher shortages, academic performance issues, and student engagement?
That's a huge question, and definitely takes longer than 3 minutes to address that. But when we start looking at that, I think all three of those go together. And if we can begin together as a collective team and begin to develop a plan, we can move the county forward. We can make the county attractive to where people want to come to Upshur County to work, because we are doing what's best for kids, we are getting results, we are competitive, we are celebrating those successes. And I think it begins with, I stated earlier, we have to have a clear vision and mission for the county. And what direction is it that we want to go? And how do we want to get there? So the first thing that we look at with that, we look at the components for success, again, with the mission and vision, is developing those instructional leadership teams within our schools. And that begins with the superintendent, ensuring that we're taking the time to meet with administrators and helping them to be successful instructional leaders in their buildings, and ensuring that the academic success increases. We have to look at high expectations. We may start out in Upshur County being in the 30s and 40% proficiency rate. I'm not happy with that, and I know every single person in this room is definitely not happy with that. So in order to increase that, we have to start from the beginning, and we have to involve everybody in that. With those high expectations, we're going to set those goals high, and we're going to work hard to achieve those goals. We have to make sure that we are monitoring. If we aren't monitoring, then a lot of times then people may not be able to get things done, and we're not looking at that. We have to look at data. We have to ensure that we're looking at all types of data, demographics of our students, we're looking at student achievement, as well as the processes that we currently have in place in our schools. We also have to look at perceptual data, and with that perceptual data, we have to do surveys and look at maybe what's the perception of the county. Why do people not want to come here and work? In order to do that, we have to ensure that we are working together. It takes everybody. Everybody has to play a part in this, and making sure that we are visible. As a superintendent, I think it's extremely important. We would get busy on a day-to-day basis, but we have to be visible in the schools and let the kids and the staff know that we care and that we are there to help them. And I think once we do all of that, we can begin slowly to move up the ladder. I'm extremely competitive, and I want to win, and I want the county to win. And so I will work hard to be able to help lead the county and the teachers and administrators to help the kids. Thank you.
Thank you. How do you plan to approach the big issues facing our county, such as certified teacher shortages, academic performance issues, and student engagement?
So each of those have kind of a breakdown of plans, but in 3 minutes we can't go through all that. I do know regarding our certified teacher scenario, you are piloting the Grow Your Own program for the state, one of the counties that is. And I think that's wonderful, but I think there's more things that we can do working with the college. We have a huge resource sitting right here. And through CSWT programs. We instituted a program when I was the principal at Elkins High School, and I had 15 to 20 students either in the morning or in the afternoon in schools working with children, learning what it took to be a teacher. They were not there to grade papers, they were not there to run copies, they were there to work with struggling students. So things like that could add to the Grow Your Own program, but at the same time, I think there needs to be a common realization. Kids don't learn like we did. I had teachers that stood up there and gave me information, and I took more notes. I think my right hand, still cramps sometimes because we wrote notes like crazy. And then we took a test to regurgitate that information. And I'll be honest with you, in Georgia, that's where I was first introduced to student-led classrooms. And after that, I stopped doing that. My kids taught. And if I didn't know the answer, I said, let's all find out together. And we found out together. And that's when my scores shot up. That's hard for some people to realize. But that is how you do what we talked about a little bit ago. That's how you learn to love your classroom again. I mean, you still love it. But sometimes, I love teachers, but sometimes we're our own worst enemies. I need break. And man, little Jimmy in fourth period, I don't know if I can make it to the next period. I mean, that happens. And I understand that. But that kid needs you. You may not feel like it that day. So if we can get to a point where we understand how our students are learning, even on an individual basis, and then, as you said, take real data, whether it's formative assessments, whatever type of data we feel is adequate, and use that to determine what each kid needs. And that's going to take some work. It's not easy. But when you're not having to spend the time standing up there lecturing, you have time to monitor those things and do them. And the kids do so much better. That's why we look at things like, the technical center aspect of the high school, Fred Edwards, any type of hands-on class. The kids are doing all kinds of work. Doing my research for this interview, the highest rated elementary school in the state. All they do is STEM work. It's Evans in Jackson County. I didn't know that. I had to look it up and read it. But then I started looking at what they're doing. There are no worksheets. There are no, Google Classroom forms and we fill them all out. They've got jelly beans on the table, figuring out, writing on desktops, standing up, doing all kinds of activities. So that's my ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with you, Ms. Bailey. How do you plan to build trust with teachers and students in the Upshur County school system?
Well, I think you have to start out building those relationships, and obviously trust doesn't come easy. All three of us sitting up here right now don't live here. We all have some type of connection to Upshur County. I lived here for 4 years and went to school here and thoroughly was invested in the community as a student at Wesleyan. My son currently attends Wesleyan, so I'm here quite often, a lot. Even though sometimes I don't always see him when I'm here, just to drop things off or whatnot. I think you have to begin with establishing the relationships. And in order to do that, you have to be visible. And I think that's the biggest piece, is making sure that you're out there, you're getting to know everybody. And the one thing about me is that I treat everybody the same. No matter where you come from, what your background is or anything like that. And I like to get out there and I don't like to just sit around. I want to be in the schools and getting to know people, working with people. I love, like I said before, I love sports. So I like to go to sporting events. So I think you have to just start from the basics, and you have to slowly build the relationships, and you have to earn that trust. Because a lot of times, somebody's perception is their reality. And they may think that one way or think another way, and you have to kind of look at everybody's feelings and take into consideration everybody's views and opinions and listen attentively to that. But when it all goes back to it, I think just really establishing that relationship slowly and letting people know that you're here for the right reason. And when we all look at it, we're all here in this room for the same reason. We want Upshur County to be #1 in the state in all areas. We want our kids to be successful. We want our teachers to be successful. We want everybody to love coming to work. We want to be happy. We want everybody to feel like they belong and that they're a part of the success of Upshur County when we achieve all of the goals that we set forth together.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Mr. Colley, how do you plan to build trust with teachers and students in the Upshur County school system?
I think that that's the foundation of everything we have to do. I think that when you say you're going to do something, you have to make sure that you follow through on it. I think it has to involve everyone. I agree with you. I'll be right up front. Part of the data gathering that I would focus on, I would have directors in the buildings too. I would have jobs for them to do, not giant jobs, small things that go along with some of the things they already are required to do. But they would have to report data back to me so that I know, is there engagement? Are they following the discipline plan that we need to set up possibly? Are they doing the things that are needed for the students to be successful and to support them? I think that's the biggest thing right now. I think, teachers, we have a lot of great teachers. I know several in this county. I have a huge amount of great teachers in Barber County. And I left a school system that had great teachers in Randolph. And I mean great. But it's hard to be great when one child is disrupting 25 other kids and discipline is an ongoing issue. And I think when you tell a teacher, I'll support you, in their mind a lot of times, yeah, do I have my resources? Do I have room? Do I have equipment? But the number one thing in their mind is, am I going to be supported whenever this child's not behaving, not listening, not responding? And at the same time, the teachers have to be willing to follow a protocol plan for interventions to help those children. And so I think to establish trust, you have to be, I agree, 100% visible. I think you have to be vested, and it's going to take time. I can tell you right now, the Titanic wasn't turned in a minute. It takes a while. Trust is not something that happens overnight. The only people that are going to do that are sitting right here. We're going to trust you from the moment we meet you. Until we can, but we will until that point. And all we want to do is help you. And that's kind of the goal. I think to be able to do that, understanding our students, understanding the pride of this community, what parents and all the stakeholders, businesses, everybody that's involved wants from our school system, and developing a plan that will carry all that out. It's going to take ongoing, everyday, 24/7 attention, not 8 to 4 attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colley. Mr. Kyle, how do you plan to build trust with teachers and students in the Upshur County school system?
And a lot of those in building that atmosphere of trust, we look at kind of staff first and making sure we have staff where we need to be, and then that kind of trickles down to the students that we serve. With our staff, over a decade of being an administrator, we celebrated together as a staff as much and as often as we could. And my ongoing joke to all the new staff coming in, at the beginning of August in that school year, was, I'll go out to dinner with you on Friday night, but I'll write you up Monday morning when you're late for work. So love you, I mean. And through those type of things and help kind of ease that tension and make that connection, they knew where those standards were, and they knew it's not one of those things that I was out to get them. I'm just out to make the best person I can for every student in that building. And that collectively held that group together for over a decade at that school. And through those years, we saw a lot of turmoil in surrounding schools. But as soon as an opening was available at my school, someone or multiple people were there knocking on the door waiting to get in, because they knew the standards were there, they knew the expectations were there, and they wanted to be a part of it. So hopefully that's something that we can help nurture, build, and grow throughout every school here in this county. Because at the end of the day, the better the individual is we put in front of those kids, the better those test results are going to be, the better our absence records will be, and everything else will fall into place. But if it's not something that's handed down from the top to the bottom, it's just not going to work. And it's our job, our role, to make sure that our school staff is following protocol, procedure, and being what we collectively need them to be for the sake of our students.
Sorry, thank you. So that was our last question, and thank you all. We'll now move on to our 3-minute closing statements, starting with Mr. Collett.
Well, sorry about, I got a big voice, so I forget the mic sometimes. I don't know that I need it. I think I can work without it. But I just want to say to you, first of all, I know the pride of this community because I grew up witnessing it. And whether it was academics or athletics or whatever competition you wanted to have, Randolph County and Upshur County were always at it. And at the same time, we knew each other too. So it wasn't like you didn't like them. We went out with them and went to the movies with them and all the things you do when you're a high schooler. So that makes this a special place. And so with that being said, I think that right now, academically, Upshur County is not where it wants to be. I think right now, disciplinary issues are not where they need to be. I'm a firm believer those things can be taken care of. A lot like Jeremy said, we have to start at the top and work our way down. I think there needs to be a leadership program for administrators. If they don't understand where the superintendent's coming from, how can there be any success or move forward? At the same time, they need to be developing their staff, looking for potential administrators, looking for things to help their teachers, support their teachers, give their teachers new ideas. And, as was said, be open-minded to hear some things. Maybe the experience that we have in some of those buildings has a great idea, and it just hasn't been vocalized yet. So you have to be open-minded and share your thoughts and your ideas and be able to communicate well. And again, I think cooperation, communication, and kindness is the key. Once you have those things in place, then a lot of things start to change, and people start seeing how this is such an important motivational aspect of our whole community, let alone the lives of these kids. And that's the important aspect of it. So I am privileged to sit here with these colleagues. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. And if you ever have any questions or anything you need to talk about, I'll give you my cell phone number. That's not a problem. We share that all the time. But I look forward and I hope to have the opportunity to help you more. Thank you very much.
So it all comes down to the final statement. You know, she's still timing in 3 minutes, aren't you? I see. But guys, first and foremost, at the end, I want to thank you guys for coming out this evening and taking part in this. Without you guys collectively, this job is extremely difficult. We rely on people around us to help make things better for our students. We can't do it alone. So this individual will be leaning a lot toward individual schools and the public around those schools and serve those children to help make plans better moving forward. And I encourage you guys, whoever is in this seat, to be an active participant in that process. So it's as much as your guys' responsibility as it is ours. And we lean a lot toward you. Down to students in general. Sometimes when looking at some of the things we talked about here this evening, student well-being, we rely on a lot of you guys to be kind of first responders, the first ones to intervene when those crises among students hit. So you guys, at sometimes, whether you like it or not, can be one of the first ones to help identify those crisis situations and know what to do to that and where to take it. So it all kind of begins with you. So it's our job to make sure we have all the pieces in place, all the players know their roles and responsibilities moving forward. So guys, I thank you. Good luck to you guys as a community. Good luck to our board members here in their decision. And I thank you guys for your time.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. I was extremely nervous coming in. Everybody, regardless of your position, it is a little scary when you're sitting up on the stage in front of a crowd of people. I did scan the room a little, trying to put my eyes on people that I might know and be familiar with. Again, I'm just appreciative to be here. I do have, a love for the community when I lived here not too long ago, just a couple of years. And I'm hoping that the old saying is they save the best for last. So I'll try to close out the night with this. We've got some goals for Upshur County. We're not where we want to be as a county, so we want to increase the academics. We want our students to be at the top. We have to develop a plan, a vision, a mission for the entire county so that we can all work together collectively to reach that goal for our students to be successful. We also want to work in the county to ensure that we can work to get the levy passed, because we all know that without proper funding, we can't have a lot of the necessities that we need for our students to learn and be successful. The next thing with our goal and our plan is we want to make sure that we can update our facilities. We want our students to be proud of the facilities. We want them to be proud when people come to Upshur County for an event that the kids can show off those facilities, because we've all been across the state. We've seen counties that have state-of-the-art facilities. We want to be one of those counties. I think first and foremost, if I were to be able to come and serve the community of Upshur County, I think we can collectively work together as a team to make sure that we put the main thing, and that's growing our student success in the entire county. So again, thank you for allowing the three of us the opportunity to be here. It was very nice also getting to chat with the colleagues and listening to new ideas as well. So thank you, and have a great night.
All right, so this concludes our debate. As I prepare to hand the microphone, or our forum, sorry, as I prepare to hand the microphone back to Dr. Samuels, I do want to ask just that you give a round of applause to our students, first of all. Hank Phillips, Cody Taylor, Sidney Owens, and Ron White. These are some incredible kids, and many incredible kids who volunteered their time on short notice to come out and do this. So thank you all once again. And again, for our candidates for being present as well.